Good evening. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustments meeting of April 20th, 2022 for the municipality of French River. I'd like to call to order. Roll call. I guess we're all here in body or virtually, except for Councillor Dave. So moving on to the, can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Councillor Renee.
Randy.
And seconded by Randy. All in favor? Okay, everybody's in favor. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anybody have any? Don't see any. Adoption of the minutes from the last meeting, I guess. Do we have those? Somebody to adopt the minutes, I guess. Councillor Renee. Second by can't see there.
Bob.
Councillor Bob, sorry, yep. Have to look at the corner. Sorry, Councillor Bob. Any questions on that, on the minutes? All good. All those in favor? Carried. All right, minor variance application. So this evening, there's a public hearing scheduled for one proposed minor variance. Application number A0222FR for Christopher and Melissa Pasqua. The Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing to decide whether or not to approve a minor variance application. The committee will be presented with the details and background to the minor variance application and will receive comments from the public and agencies before committee decision is made. I will now pass it to the Director of Planning Services.
So notice a public hearing was posted in the municipal office and was sent by mail to the assessed owners within 60 meters of the property subject to the minor variance application this evening, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent on April 7th, 2022, being over 10 days prior to this evening's meeting. Included with each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and a key map showing the location of the subject property.
Thank you, Matt. I now declare this a public hearing to deal with the application number A0222FR for Christopher and Melissa Pasqua. The Director of Planning will advise of the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and provide any information that is relevant to the application. Matt?
Thank you. So when we consider minor variances, when they're brought forth to the committee, there's four factors that we have to take into account or the committee members have to consider. And those four factors are, is the application minor? Is the application desirable for the appropriate development? Does the application maintain the general intent of the zoning bylaw? And lastly, does the application maintain the general intent of the official plan? And for a minor variance, all those four factors have to be supportive or meet those four tests. So I'll just kind of, I'm just going to lightly go over each individual request this evening, which pertains to the same property. Typically, when I am presenting in front of the committee, it's usually one or two variances. So this evening, there's 5 variances in total. So I'm just going to break it down, try to simplify things for the committee members. So the first relief or variance the individual or the applicants are requesting is relief to the setback for the sleep cabin. So I was on site. I did conduct a site visit, which I will touch on below with my explanation. So the existing sleep cabin was, it's an existing sleep cabin. It was constructed a while back. And so right now the sleep cabin is, its distance from the optimal summer water level is 6.1 meters. So when anyone, an applicant owner wants to build their single family home on waterfront, the intent of the bylaw is to say that, well, you're allowed, you have a right to have a sleep cabin, but the sleep cabin has to be behind the existing cottage. So in this case, the sleep cabin is in front of the existing cottage. So I'm just recognizing that existing setback just to ensure that There's no issues going forward in the future if they need to do any work on it or any building permits need to be issued for that sleep cabin, which is existing. So we're just recognizing an existing setback of 6.1 meters. Secondly is the maximum lot coverage. So all that means is basically if you take the area of land and you start building structures or building permits are being issued for structures, the square footage of those structures are taking up the space or the land. So basically, the waterfront residential area is saying, hey, you're allowed to build up to 15% on the land in terms of structure. So the proponent this evening is exceeding that 15% threshold. And based on my calculations and looking at the existing cottage, the additions to the cottage, the existing sleep cabin, the existing shed, which is to be demolished and reconstructed. So I took in consideration all the existing structures, the bathhouse, etc. That amounted to 19%. So we're recognizing that this evening as well. So it's an additional 4% that's not permitted. The third item is the dwelling unit. Again, there's an existing cottage on the property. And then the individual is doing 2 additions to that existing cottage. So as they're kind of adding those additions to the cottage, I'm recognizing 2 setbacks, one at the northwest corner and the other is at the north corner, which are setbacks of 6.7 meters and 11.89 meters from the high water mark, respectively. And lastly, the last variance is for the accessory structure, which is the detached garage. The proponent intends to demolish the existing garage and relocate it, maintaining a very similar square footage. With that said, the location of that accessory building or detached garage is going to be approximately 15.24 meters away from the optimal summer water level, where you require 20 meters. So I've kind of summarized the 5 different variances that are being requested this evening by the proponent. And again, when I'm looking at minor variances, I'm looking at, is it going to be compatible with the adjacent waterfront properties that are in the area? Is it going to be compatible in character? Is there adequate provision for access to vehicles, parking, etc.? Is there adequate buffering, screening, landscaping? So I'm looking at all those different circumstances and looking at those 4 tests and determining whether I could be recommending all these 5 variances or not. So as I noted earlier, I did conduct a site visit on the subject property. So I'm of the opinion that the extension of the 2 additions at the northwest and north corner of the existing dwelling unit is reasonable and is not excessive in nature, because the subject property is located on an elevated peninsula in relation to the body of water there. It's quite steep, elevated terrain going up on that rock. Due to that steep elevation of the existing rock outcrop and its relationship, so the relationship with the high water mark, the proposed expansions, in my opinion, professional opinion, will not have a negative impact on the quality of water for the lake. With respect to the new location of the detached garage, the proposed setback of 15 meters or 15.24 meters from the optimal summer water level is not excessive, because the proposed setback is approximately in this vicinity of where the existing detached garage is, so which was not an issue before. So it's in the proximate area, so it won't have any further impact due to the existing one that's going to be demolished. With respect to the existing sleep cabin, this is a technical request. This is technical in nature due to the proposed additions that are to be constructed to the existing dwelling. So part of my overall view, I'm taking everything into account. So this is just more technical than anything regarding the sleep cabin. Unless Unless there's an issue where the sleep cabin becomes like a boathouse, but I've talked to the owner of the property. I did to talk to Chris there, and there's no issues there. And in terms of lot coverage, the existing sleep cabin is closer. I've kind of noted that earlier. The lot coverage of 19%, where the waterfront is requiring 15%. That takes account all the existing structures and proposed structures that are supposed to be constructed. So I've taken everything into account, and I do seem that being still reasonable with the percentages. Now, with that said, I just caution the committee this evening that should the applicant request further additions or more construction or new construction in the future, I would not be able to support the variance application for lot coverage due to the existing lot, and that existing lot is currently undersized. It's to give you a little bit of perspective. Any lot to be created on waterfront is supposed to be just around like 2 acres or 0.8 hectares. This isn't a lot of record. It's an existing lot that's legal non-compliant. It's more than less than that size. It's 0.3 hectares. So I'm just cautioning the committee members should the applicant and the owner wish to do further development. I would not be supportive for other reasons of overdevelopment and impact on the water. And with that said, this evening I am bringing forth to the committee supportability for all 5 variances this evening.
All right, thank you, Matt. I understand that the applicant, Mr. Pasqua, is in the house. So does he want to do a presentation or wishes to say anything?
Mr. Chair, the applicant has nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the public? If so, please stand, give your name and full mailing address to the Secretary of Treasury, and follow with your comments. Are there anybody in the house? In the public first. So there's nobody in the crowd. Okay, so I will go to council. I believe Mr. Winborn had his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I look through the proposal, I see the legal location, but I don't know what water it's on. And I'm kind of curious about what the precise location of this is, which body of water it's on.
Matt, can you clarify that for us?
Can I redirect that to, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can I redirect that to the owner, just to confirm?
It is Woolsey Bay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Randy?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question for Matt. Seeing as how the lot is severely undersized and we're talking about going above and beyond for coverage on the lot, my curiosity is about septic system on this lot. If there's an addition to the proposed cottage, are there extra bedrooms being added, therefore extra people loading onto the site? And what size is the current septic? Has it been reviewed by the Board of Health with comments? Because if we're adding additional people with bedrooms here, my curiosity becomes, are we meeting the standard with the septic for the lake?
You're on mute.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's a good question. So in terms of the additional bedrooms, washroom, and the relationship that may have on potential impact with the septic and the type of system that's in place, that would be a follow-up question with Andrew Treaty, who's the chief building official, because from a land use policy, I have no control with respect to variance applications and their relationships with septics. That's a different case if it was a severance application, because we're creating new lots. So very good question. I would follow up with the building department on that, and Andrea would have answers pertaining to the bedrooms and the additional capacity and how that could impact and what the status is for the approval for that septic system.
So if I can just add to that, Matt, so our process is subsequent to what you're talking about, the septic. So at one point, the septic would have to be approved before they go forward anyway, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. Any other questions? Councillor Bob, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, one of my questions again, and thank you to Councillor Dean, was what body of water? So that's been answered, and the address 2692, I guess that's off of Woodley Bay Road or Highway 528?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That is correct. So when I did conduct my site visit, it's you drive down 64 and then I turn while I was going through Noelville down 64, and then I turn left onto 528 Woodley Bay, and you drive all the way down right to the end, and there's an existing lodge there. And there's some sort of agreement with the, if you notice on the address, the 29 with like A, B, C, and D. So there's 4 properties after the lodge. So there's some sort of agreement in place for access purposes to that lodge. And adjacent to the subject property is the municipality of Nipissing. On the north side of the property would be the other planning district outside of our area.
Thank you, Matt. Any other questions?
Just one more quickly.
Go ahead.
I presume that there is a driveway, you can drive to the property. It's not water access?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. So this was a complicated application because there's a lot going on with it. So that's why it's nice to get feet on the ground. That's why I like to do my site visits because it helps me when it comes time to provide a recommendation or do my report writing. I get not just like, you know, the office, the policies, but I get the experience out there to get a feel, and I try to tie everything together. So to your question, by me going out there, conducting the site visit, I was able to determine that it is not water access. There is a private road that access those 4 properties, and it's definitely not water access. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the
Yes.
applicant would like to add comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Just with respect to the septic question, I had contacted Sudbury Public Health, and they requested a site plan to see the whole scope of everything. And they actually approved it's a 12,000 liter holding tank because the property is all granite rock. They said there's no way I can put a septic bed. So there's an existing 12,000 liter holding tank that they said it's fine. That's all.
Thank you. So I'm assuming there's no other questions or comments. Okay. If there are no other further questions, I then declare this public hearing to be concluded. It is now in order for a committee member to make a motion and for the committee to consider the application. I get a motion for this. Councillor Renee. I get somebody to second it. Councillor Bob. All right. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Okay, please be advised that there's a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. During this appeal period, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. So I believe that this concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody.
We need to close.
Oh, close. All right.
Okay.
I usually do that pretty quick usually. So get a motion to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Wenborn. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, committee. Have a good